You're listening to Reckless Creatives, a Pipeline Artists original podcast, where Sadie Dean and Jeannie Villette-Bowerman share the candid truth about the challenges and benefits of living life as artists.
I'm always really unprepared. I spent my morning at the in the oldest building in the village, which is where our antique shop is.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
I didn't realize it was the oldest building.
Just like me.
Still standing.
The oldest podcaster. You know, can I just say, what the hell? We had a symposium. I promise we're going to get to you, Will. We had a symposium last night with Lee Jessup, and somebody talked about, is it possible to break in? I'm 42. And I'm like, shut up. You are so young. It's all relative, people.
It's all relative. I mean, like Gandolfini and Harrison Ford, they were in their 40s or something?
Just FYI, James Ivory, screenwriter, 89 years old when he won an Oscar.
There you go.
You know what happens when you get old? You get wise and life experience, right?
You get wiser and a lot more aches and pains.
Yes.
But it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah. And sleeping in hurts more? Like, why?
I don't know. It's kind of tragic.
I slept in 5 minutes past what I usually, get up, and I have a headache for the day. My back is thrown out.
Yes.
What are you doing, Sadie Dean?
Just not sleeping right, apparently.
I know. Will, we are very excited to talk to you today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. First of all, dig your room.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I tried to tidy up a little bit. This is my office space that I write in and never leave.
Do you have, okay, I've got a question for you guys before we dive into all this other filmmaking stuff or whatever. Do you guys have a dedicated, Sadie, besides your keyboard, like when you're writing, do you have like a place in your home where you go to that's different than the place you sit at all the time and work? Or do you just switch into writing mode and sit where you normally sit to do your other stuff? Riveting questions I ask you.
It's a riveting question, yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, I do most of my writing here. I'm not adverse to writing elsewhere, although I don't find other places to work. If I'm on the move or in an office on campus somewhere where I'm teaching, anytime I have my laptop and I just start writing. So, because time is farther and fewer between these days for me. So any chance I get, I'll take it wherever I am.
I'm always curious. What about you, Sadie?
Honestly, I would like to think I could write elsewhere, or I would like to go somewhere to write elsewhere, but I'm usually just at my desk in my office. Like, I wish I could be one of those people I'm going to go up to the cafe and sit and people watch and write, but sorry.
Well, I'm just thinking about this because I know a lot of people have all these little routines of writing and creating, and sometimes it's hard to switch the brain if you're sitting in the place, or maybe it's just me. If you're sitting in the place where you do all this other stuff, it's like, oh, I can just I'll answer this one more email, or I'll just do, because your mind is so used to working while you're there. So I'm going to try, and I'll report back. I'm going to try to sit up in my little sitting room and write where I have that plant that's kind of
is that plant still alive?
It's looking a little scary, Sadie. But I will take a picture of myself up there and I'll show you the plant. But
all right.
Anyway, no one cares about any of this. They're here to listen to Will.
Will, the man of many creative talents, too many to list, I feel like, off the top of my head. It's like one of those things, like, what do you not do, Will?
I need to cut back is what I need to do. But yeah, I mean, I tend to keep busy, let's say. I suppose I would say I'm a filmmaker first. I fell in love with making movies as a youngster, went to school for it.
There's no recovery.
There's no recovery. You fall in love with it and you don't fall out. I also I love writing, clearly writing scripts, but I started to write novels shortly into my filmmaking career because in a weird way, I thought that it would helped me get the movies made because, I had these projects that were independently minded that I needed to raise money for. And clearly Hollywood values pre-existing content, material that already has a following and an awareness. And that's how I ended up writing No Alternative, which was a novel first in 2012 that I ended up making in 2016 and releasing in 2019. And since then, I've written 3 other books, another novel called The Dream Machine, and then 2 nonfiction books, one about filmmaking, which is my experience making Detour, my first feature, and then my most recent one, which is about David Lynch's Twin Peaks. So, yeah. Oh, there you have it. Look at that cover. That's a snazzy cover.
It is. It's a good book.
Yes. Thank you so much. So clearly I love to write and make movies. I'm also a musician. I play drums in a band for 30 years. My band was an inspiration for the movie No Alternative. And we've been playing since we've been teenagers. And we're always sort of dreaming of that record deal and making it big. And obviously it didn't happen. Ironically, when the movie came out, we finally got some attention in our 40s. The movie won a Best Soundtrack Award at the Paris Art Movie Awards.
Sweet.
And because of that, we got our record deal. Like 30 years after our prime, we get this deal, and we've been making music since. So that was an interesting thing to happen.
Yeah, that is very interesting. It's like, okay, I guess the way to break in now is go make a movie.
It's so easy.
There.
Yeah.
Get your music in there for the soundtrack, and then you get a deal, and just like that.
Yeah. That's one way to do it. It'll take you 30 years, but it could happen.
What a journey. I'm curious for your movie No Alternative, knowing that's based off of your band and the music, and some other personal stuff, but like writing the novel and then adapting your own work into a screenplay, and also that director's hat. Like, how do you collect the things that are important, remove all the things that aren't, and then kind of stay focused on what's important to make that thing into a movie, and
That's
also like remove the personal stuff too.
Yeah, well, that's the hardest part.
Yeah,
that's the hardest part. Well, in the case of No Alternative, it was actually reverse engineered. So that started as a script.
Okay.
So it was outlined very traditionally, 3-act structure. All the unnecessary parts were kind of already trimmed, but it's a story that is also so dense, and it's a period of time that resonates with so many people, the early 90s. So I felt like I had more to say. So I basically took the screenplay and expanded it into the book. So eventually, when I went back to the screenplay after the book had been out, the structure was already there, but I did add back some things that I'd written in the novel. Not too much, because it's under 2 hours long, but I didn't have that problem because it started out already very streamlined.
Mm-hmm. But I love that when you take a story and you change it into a different medium, but then also revisit it as a script. By writing it as a novel, you discover so much more, more about your characters, discover all that. And then even if you've got like a feature that you then turned into a limited series so that you could expand on it. You're like, oh, that scene's got to be in the feature. Like
Absolutely. And as a director, you end up, even if you don't write the novel, you still have to really dig deep into your characters and create backstories, right? And explore the worlds of these characters outside of the time they're on the screen. So you're kind of doing that work already. And it's funny because when we cast the film and I was working with the actors, kind of half jokingly when we were going over backstory, all I really had to do was give them a copy of the book. It's like, just read the book. Here's your character. And they read it. They laughed and they read it. But I guess they had more work, more reading to do than usual.
Yeah, the literal Bible, you have it. Every filmmaker should have that ready to go.
Yeah, but it made my job really easy because this is it's already there.
Yeah, and you're like, don't make me repeat myself.
Exactly. So So that was interesting.
Were you traditionally published or did you self-publish?
So yeah, that was self-published. Self-publishing has gotten a lot easier these days. I ended up forming my own imprint, and I kind of built my own like micro press for myself, and I've been using that as a platform for all of my books, and have built a following, and have been able to get them into bookstores. And
sweet,
yeah,
that's hard.
It is hard, but it's I've generated enough material and awareness to be able to make that happen. So that's also a very independently minded venture, but it certainly can be done.
Well, you're a famous drummer, so of course.
Well, that it all comes back to that, I mean, if I didn't have that, I'd be nowhere.
I'm waiting for the two of you to just kind of like start jamming.
Yes, I know. I see the guitars in the background. Yeah, a lot of filmmakers are musicians. I think it's something about the rhythmic aspect of the art form, I think, that translates into movies and their patterns.
I'm starting to believe that. I only played the bassoon and the flute, so I can't really help you. Pass on that. I remember watching Twin Peaks when it first came out. My husband and I were like obsessed with it. And I don't know, were we married? What year did it come out?
1990.
And now what's really cool is my kids, who are like 29 and 31, are like watching things like Twin Peaks and
it's coming back.
Yeah, and all those other shows. Gosh, why am I forgetting the name? David Duchovny.
The X-Files.
X-Files. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they came to visit a couple weeks ago, and I was like, "Are you guys watching the X-Files?" I love that, though. I know.
Which it's not surprising, because I mean, Twin Peaks influenced so many of the most popular shows of the past 10, 20 years, right? Like Severance there would be no Severance without Twin Peaks, period. Yeah. It changed television.
So did you learn something new about it in writing the book? Like, what inspired you to write the book about it? And like, did you walk away thinking, God, I never really thought about this before from this perspective?
Yeah, it did. David Lynch was the reason why I wanted to become a filmmaker. I was maybe about 11 years old when I first saw Twin Peaks on the air. And the first episode I saw was one of the handful that he directed. And it was so emotionally moving to me. It was the first time that I realized, and I had watched a lot of film and TV before then, but it was the first time that I realized, oh, there's a creative mind behind this manipulating me. I want to learn how to do that. And then ever since then, it's been okay. I want to kind of follow this path. He went to AFI. I wanted to go to AFI. I moved out to LA, and he served as a huge creative inspiration for me. And it all came back to Twin Peaks. And I've always loved to watch his work and just absorb it and not really think too hard about it. And I think a lot of people do that because it is very abstract. It's very surreal. A lot of it's meant to be sort of subconsciously deciphered, right? Not necessarily overanalyzed. But then during the pandemic, I had a lot of time on my hands, like a lot of us did. And I felt like, I'm going to rewatch Twin Peaks, everything. And I'm going to take notes. And I started taking notes. I'm like, this could be very interesting to write about. And there had already been a lot written about Twin Peaks. But for me as a filmmaker, the most important thing is finding a theme. What's the theme in your work? And how do you visualize that? And I started to hone in on this theme that Lynch was getting at, which I think is the balance of opposites. There's so much imagery of light, just extreme oppositions of light and darkness, and he leaves it up to the viewer to reconcile it. And I felt like he really had something to say in that regard. So that became more apparent to me as I was going through it, and it made me appreciate his material at an even deeper level. And also just, Lynch as a human being and getting into just his philosophy in life. Like he's he didn't I subscribe to any religion per se, but he was very spiritual. And I think a lot of his movies are spiritual in an odd way. Like even Eraserhead, he says that's his most spiritual film. And, you know, Henry, the main character, he literally goes to heaven in the end, right? He's just bathed in white light, and we have the song "In Heaven, Everything Is Fine." So, you know, I think I wanted to write something that reflected his philosophy, and sort of spoke to those people out there who thought that, oh, Lynch he's just being weird for the sake of being weird. But I which I think is completely false, right? So I felt like, you know what, maybe I can contribute to that conversation.
And there's pie.
There's a lot of pie, a lot of cherry pie,
a lot of pie, a lot
black
of coffee.
Yeah. Well, but he, you know, the funny thing about Lynch is all that seemingly corny, sentimental stuff. Those little moments where, you know, a prim and proper FBI agent just relishes this cup, just seemingly pedestrian cup of coffee and cherry pie. Like, Lynch sincerely loves those things. Like this is what makes life great and joyful and happy for him and for a lot of people. And I think he's pointing that out. Like there is, there's darkness and trouble in the world, but let's not always focus on that. Let's focus on the small things, be in the present moment, and take the joy where we can get it, because the joy is all around us. He's a very positive filmmaker. I really, and if you've ever seen an interview with him, a very positive person. So I think some people, it leaves them a little disoriented because his work can seem very dark. But I think if you really look at his work, the darkness is balanced very equally with the light and the joy, like in those moments in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I feel like also, like, just, you know, back to the pie and the coffee, there's something so, again, like very universal about it, that it grounds you back into reality, even though everything's so abstract in his work. That's like, we are all in this together, in this little shop together, enjoying this black coffee and delicious cherry pie, because why not? But it is. I mean, I think anyone could, you know, watch that show and go, okay, like, at least I can come back to that and be grounded with that. And it's not so weird.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's right. Because there's, you know, his work could easily just be this big, abstract, you know, chaotic thing. But no, he brings us back to these points that we all can connect to and relate to and see ourselves living in.
It's also interesting too to watch something like you were 11 when you first saw it. To watch something, obviously not a filmmaker at that time, or maybe you were. No. I don't know. You seem like you have a lot of energy. Maybe you were, but to watch something before you get into the arts and then after you get into the arts and view it differently.
Yeah.
Are there other things too that you've explored?
Not in as much depth as I did Twin Peaks, but I think like most movies I tend to watch that I like. I try to watch without analyzing it first and just let it wash over me and be moved emotionally and just let it have its way with me. And then if it affects me, I'll go back and analyze it. And I'll be, okay, well then how is this filmmaker doing this? I don't dive in on the first viewing to analyze, because I think that takes the magic away, right? It's like it's movie making is magic. That's exactly what it is, right? I mean, you love to watch a magician perform tricks, but you don't want to try to figure them out right away. If you're really interested, you go back and try to figure out how they accomplished what they did, but you want to be mystified and astounded at first, because it makes you feel like you're out of this world, you know? So yeah, I tend to rewatch things with, you know, at first with my right brain and then again with my left brain.
I saw that you have a wedding ring on. So
yes.
Does your partner ever say to you, God, you've just ruined every film for me? Now I watch it and I'm analyzing it like you were.
A little bit. If anything, she sometimes gets annoyed when I tend to pause things and then discuss it. Like, okay, let's pause there, this story, and talk about the story beat. And that just kills her. I mean, she just wants to punch me in the face when I do that. So I can't help myself, but I just try to limit the amount of times I do it. but she's also a pretty analytical person. So it doesn't bother her that much. Only when only if it's disrupting the viewing experience in the moment, then she can't take it.
Sadie, I think one day we should have on the spouses of artists.
Oh man, that'll be a rowdy session.
Yeah. Oh yeah, talk about reckless.
yeah, indeed.
I would love that.
It's just so hard though to be, I guess, like a student of film, a lifetime student, right? To not analyze. Like I have really a hard time just watching movies just for pleasure. And sometimes like I'll set out like, okay, I'm just going to watch this movie just because I want to. And there's no connection to like, I have to interview this person or whatever it is. And then I try to get through it and I'm like, now I have to watch it again because I don't think I was really paying attention.
Yeah.
And then it starts kicking in. I'm like, oh, there's that thing. And like, I don't pause it to discuss, but I'll start like, going online on my phone and searching things and looking up filmography of the work of the other, castmates or whatever it is. And then there's just endless rabbit holes. And I'm sure my husband doesn't really appreciate that either.
Yeah, I mean, it takes some practice. I mean, the film students that I teach, I usually say at the beginning of the semester, if I haven't had them before, prepare to have your movie and TV viewing experiences ruined for the rest of your lives because you're going to be analyzing them. But then, I say, but I think that adds an additional layer of meaning to the process, right? Because I think you can get to a point where you enjoy them emotionally and subconsciously, and then if you choose to, really go back and peel the layers of the onion back.
I also think, like, as a filmmaker, isn't that what you want? Like, you want people to sort of soak it in and digest it and think about it. That's one of the things that, like, with film festival drives me crazy because there's not much of a break in between films. So it's like one right after the other, and you don't really get enough time in between to think about what you just saw.
Yeah. How do you properly assess those films in that, such a condensed period of time?
So talk to us about like some of your filmmaking, like when you're writing a script do you typically direct the scripts that you write, or are you directing other people's stuff too? And if it's something that you're writing, as you're writing the script, are you thinking proactively about budget?
Yes. Well, most of the movies I've made, I've written, and at first, after I graduated film school, I had the two categories. I wrote lower budget scripts with the intention to direct them, and then higher budget ones that I would hope to sell, right, and not attach myself to direct. So I had those two categories. So I have a lot of very big budget, high concept.
I love how
scripts.
I love how you made the other person getting all the money somebody else's problem.
Yeah, exactly. It's less to. I'll show up on set and say hello and grab a coffee and then leave. Yeah. So I mean, I haven't been doing it that much the past several years. My writing has really been more focused on what I can make. But I do have plenty of scripts that are much higher concept and bigger budget. But that's just the way that I've just come up in the industry. I mean, my first movie was called Detour, and it's very low budget. And we wrote it that way because we knew, okay, we want to make a film. I have to make my first feature film to even be considered for other films. Is that catch-22? How do you get to make a feature film? Well, you've had to have made one before. Well, how the heck do you do that? So you kind of have to get really lucky or just make it somehow. So we decided, my writing partner, Dwight, and I decided to limit the characters, limit the locations, and can't get any more minimal than one actor in a car, basically. And that's what we wrote. And that was the first movie that we got made. And ironically, when we wrote it, we're all ready to make it. We had 10 grand. Let's do this in, my friend's garage, with, a junker and a couple of buckets of dirt. And then the script got a little bit of attention, and over a 3-year period, we had several $1 million, investments that were on their way, big actors attached. And this happened about like 3 or 4 times, and it was going up, and then collapsed. Everything just, disappeared, and then it would do it again. Okay. The temptress of Hollywood came back and was like, all right, let's give you all this money and these actors, and let's do it again. And then it went up. And just as it was about to go, it collapsed. And this is a typical story in Hollywood, but that happened, about 4 times. And then after that last one, I was like, it's been 3 years just doing this dance. So let's just do it the way we intended to do it. And once I decided that, I was able to raise just enough money to make the scenes that took place outside of the car that weren't that expensive at all. And I just started production without having the rest of the financing to do all the real car stuff underneath the ground. And once I started shooting, I invited some producer friends of mine who were interested, but were kind of waffling, didn't want to commit to set. And once they saw that it was going, they're like, oh, this is really happening. One of the producing teams that came decided to sign on. So it's this thing about momentum, right? You gotta get that train moving, even if there isn't a destination. You just got to get it moving. And once it gets going, people start to come on board.
Wild how that happens.
It happens, but it's also it's reckless, right? Which is a good word for this podcast. Because what if it doesn't happen? But it's you kind of have to make it real before it becomes real, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And have other people see that this is actually a real thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so when they came to set, they signed on, and then it took about maybe 3 months after the first section of shooting to get all the crew, build the sets, do the pre-production, and we started shooting. I think that was the summer of 2010 on a soundstage in Inglewood. But and it was one of those things. Once that was moving, it was awesome. We had a great group of people around us who wanted to help. For example, we had the Picture Car Warehouse, which is a great company that builds cars for movies. And they gave us a Jeep Cherokee to our specs. They were able to, just cut it apart and remove the dash, remove the ceiling, remove anything we wanted at any point in time. Literally, the owner was talking to a friend of his about the film. And his friend is a gentleman by the name of Bob Williams, who's a big guy in the special effects community. He helped build the original Terminator robot. And his specialty is like underground work. Like he built the tunnel in the Shawshank Redemption, and he's like, do you need a mud guy? Because I can come and do your mud. I was like, yeah, we need a mud guy. We can't pay you anything, but you want to come over? He's like, you know what? I'm doing, and he was doing another show at the time. I won't name the show because he didn't like it. He's like, I'm going to go do my day job here, but I'm going to leave early this week and come and do on the way home. You're on my way back and do your mud. I was like, all right. Wow. It was fantastic, and the guy I was working with a legend, And we had all these little incidents because they see something that's going, and they see a group of filmmakers who are young and passionate, and really, it kind of just gets them very interested and motivated.
It's exciting. There's something about, especially like that young energy, where you're just like, I don't know if I'll do it, and then you start seeing someone doing it, and you're like, yeah, okay, like what can I do? Like I'll make the coffee, guys. Like I'm all in. What do you need?
Well, this also happens with actors a lot, right? Because if you're looking for actors of note, right, who are in demand, it's impossible, especially for an indie film. It's impossible to book them months before the movie begins because they don't want to commit to it in case something bigger comes up. So the key to getting them is waiting until you're shooting, right, or like right before you're shooting to make the offer. But it's such a risk because you don't have a cast. Like in No Alternative, for instance, it's primarily teenagers, but there are parents who are prominent in the film. and we were able to cast Harry Hamlin and Catherine Irby in the roles. But those, while we were talking to them in the weeks before, they didn't commit until literally the middle of the shoot. So we started shooting the film as we were negotiating and talking with them. And then cast them week 3. It was a 4-week shoot. Cast them week 3, and then lumped all their scenes together in week 4, so we can shoot them. So we didn't, have them for the whole shoot, and shot them out in a week. But talk about risk. Like, we don't know if we're going to have actors in this 4th week. We're sort of betting that Harry didn't get the Marvel movie or whatever it is going to pay him 20 times as much as we were paying him.
Right.
Well,
right.
you could just use little stick figures. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So there's a lot of risk involved. But that there are tons of stories like that, right? Where you're casting the night before. But again, it all comes back to like getting that train moving. You got to get it moving first, and then the people are more likely to get on once they see it moving.
It makes sense. And, going back to like your band being signed after, all the work you guys been doing for how many plus years, and then finally getting that opportunity. Like, I'm curious for you guys, just, was this something, I'm sure earlier on that was something you were chasing, and then there's a point in your life where like, I don't want to play pretend rock star anymore. I want to go to bed at 8 p.m. and I don't want to lug my gear around anymore.
No.
And I don't want to be paid in drink tickets anymore. And, I'm going through that as well. So it's like, you have that moment, but then you have that opportunity, like, well, yeah, let's go make another record. Was everyone like on board to come back? Or were they just like, no, like I hung up my hat or my guitar strap and I'm done? Or they were like, yeah, let's give this a go.
At first, everybody was into it and ready to do it. Then the work began, and it got a bit tougher because we're older in different places in our lives. We have a lot of commitments, and some of us had children, so it gets harder for us to get together and make the time. It's there are other things that are important to us in our lives, and creatively, I think like we weren't. Some of us were not quite on the same page, and we started out with it was always a 4-piece band, and then we ended up, when we got the deal, adding a guitarist, a friend of a friend, who's a very good guitarist. So it was 5 people, and I'm sure, as in your experience being in bands, Sadie, it's sometimes bands don't get along, right? Or it's easy to not be on the same page, creatively speaking, right? And I think because we grew up together, it was hard to really say, well, who's the leader? Who's because in my opinion, there's got to be some sort of band leader or someone who's making the creative decision, because it's so subjective, right? You can't. It's not a democracy. You can't have like, okay, 5 different opinions. Let's figure out how all that works. It's going to be a mess, right?
Yeah.
So I think like. While personally, we're all great friends, then creatively it made things a bit dicey. So we ended up now we're a 3-piece. It went from a 5-piece to a 3-piece, but the core of the band is together. So yeah, I mean I think because filmmaking is so regimented, there's a very almost militaristic hierarchy, as it should be. It makes the creative decision making a lot easier because there are departments, right? But in a band, it can be a lot different. And music is a very emotional thing. It's almost you can't articulate a lot of it. That's why we play music, right? Because we can tap into something we can't with our words, or in other mediums, right? So it can get it can get difficult sometimes, right? So that's something that we had to deal with that was different from growing up and just jamming in the garage as teenagers.
Yeah.
Do you write songs too?
No, I don't. I wrote one song when I was 16, but that's about it. I'm not a songwriter.
Oh my God, something he doesn't do. See, we found
but I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm sure if you picked up a guitar right now and just drummed one chord, you're like, this is the next thing?
I don't know. I mean, I've tried it here and there, but it's just something that I don't think I've been able to really do or do well. But I mean, I'm fortunate to have like wonderful songwriters around me. I mean, Liam McKiernan, who's the one of my best friends. He's the songwriter of the band. His songs are amazing. I mean, terrific. So there's no need, right? I mean, it's just like he has everything laid out, and I really like the style and the vibe. So I mean, I think once you have that person in a band, for me, it's like let's rally around that person. So like I spent, especially in the early days of the record deal, I spent a lot of my time trying to get everybody to, okay, let's follow this path and keep going over here. But just too many ideas that were kind of conflicting.
Yeah, bands are one of the toughest marriages to go through.
It's difficult.
Yeah,
it's different. And for me, it's just like as I'm getting older, playing drums it's a sport.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a physical activity.
Yeah,
and sometimes my body doesn't cooperate with what I want it to do. So it can get frustrating for me. And like to your point before, like lugging drums to gigs is about the worst thing in the world. It's a torture. And boy do I hate that. So I feel like one of my biggest obstacles is just like getting past like the physical part of it to enjoy the music, because so much of it is just like I gotta, I exercise. I mean, I don't work out like crazy, but I have to stay fit in order to be able to even play the drums in the band.
I never really thought about that before, but damn, you were right.
Yeah,
you do. I mean, because you gotta. It's a tremendous workout, and you're practicing for 2-3 hours straight, and you're using all your limbs. So if anything goes wrong, if you have you stub a toe, you can't play. Right? How do you got to use that foot?
Yeah.
And I had like early on in the process, I developed a tennis elbow that I had to get surgery on. So I was out for like 3 months. Then I have I'm pretty sure I have nerve damage in my finger from playing the drums. So it's like, it's all these little things that add up over time, so that adds an additional pressure to it.
But I think it's so fascinating that you do so many different things, like the music, the novel writing, directing, writing scripts. Like, what do you think helps your creative process by touching all of those different kinds of mediums?
That's a good question. I often think I'm doing too much, but it's they all inform one another, right? I mean, they're all forms of storytelling, even music. Yeah, right. The whole point of it is to tap into emotions and, have someone adapt to your point of view and to sort of feel what you're feeling. So I don't know if I could articulate how specifically music has helped me. I mean, I do think like editorially speaking, like drum patterns and rhythm informs my editing. I love editing. I've always worked with editors on my films, but for one reason or another, like some editors had to take jobs, I would take over and edit uncredited. And I also just finished editing a friend of mine's film. It was the first time where I was hired as an editor. A friend of mine, Mike Seville, who directed his latest feature film, that I've sort of helped develop with him a little bit, or I've consulted with him over the past few years. And it was not unlike No Alternative. This was a passion project for him years ago. I was like, if you want an editor, I'll do it. And then if you raise the money, and then 3 years later, I got the money ready to edit. I was like, all right, let's do it. But that was a really cool experience because I didn't have the pressure of directing the film. So I loved it. I was like, okay, like I know what you're going for. I'm going to give you all my opinions, the good and the bad. And, but I didn't have to make the final decision. Like he could reject something that I did. And I was like, I'm fine with that. Because there's that anxiety and pressure built into directing where you're the final say, and you might be convinced that it's the right choice, but who knows, a couple of years down the line, shit, why did I do that? Like, and I can't change it now. And that's like that can kill you.
I can't tell if Sadie was going to ask a question.
Well, I wasn't sure if you were, because you looked like you were going to, but I was going to ask a question, knowing that you're also a film instructor. Is there piece of advice or some kind of guidance you leave with your students that you wish you would have known when you were first starting out as a filmmaker that you now impart with them?
Yeah, I think it's directly connected to editing. I think, and this, I was guilty of this when I was younger too. I wanted to keep everything in the film, and if I felt like the story needed these scenes, I would keep it in. But now it's become clearer and clearer to me that the shorter the movie is, the more you can cut, the better the movie is. And I've never ever regretted cutting anything. I've only regretted leaving things in. It's really, and I have this conversation over and over with students who deliver a film and it's too long. And they're like, well, this is the story I want to tell. This is my vision. I was like, this is dragging. This is too long. This is a double beat. Like, this is not working. And I tell them, like, look, my advice is you might not want to cut it. You think it's going to be too fast. I assure you it's not. And in a couple of years, you're going to think that what you think is too fast right now, you're going to think is too long.
Yeah.
It's almost always the case.
And also, too, you never need as much dialogue as you think you do.
No, cut as much dialogue as you can, right? You're supposed to be showing, not telling, right? It's just if the dialogue saying the same thing that the action is saying and the behavior is saying, delete the dialogue. Absolutely, too much talking.
Yeah, which always drives me crazy. What's that show? House of Cards. When they had the narrator, this is why I couldn't get into the show. And I apologize to anybody who's a big fan. Because I couldn't get into the show because the first episode I watched, I'm listening to Kevin Spacey explain what I just saw. Like,
yeah,
I don't need you to tell me that. Like, I just saw it. Like, I found it very distracting. And then that was it. And I'm Sicilian. So once you're dead to me, you're dead to me. I can't.
Yeah.
There was no coming back.
Yeah. There's no need to over explain or point something out again that you've already gotten, right? You're underestimating the audience.
And I think that's the thing too, is like understanding that people are the reader of your novels or the viewer of your films. Trust that they're smart.
Yeah, 1,000%. And that's another thing that David Lynch was so great at, was letting his audience be the investigator, right? To figure things out. I'm gonna feed you these parts, but I'm not going to necessarily tell you how they connect because I want you to connect them. And for me, that makes the audience a participant. It makes it much more interesting. You become part of the film. His movies are a conversation with the audience. They don't really exist without the audience. But other films or TV shows that are so explicit in their intent and their dialogue, it's like, who's this for? It's like, there's nothing for me to do but sit back and be told what it is. And it's not very satisfying of an experience.
Yeah. I was just editing an interview I just did with the screenwriter for Begonia, and talking about just the love of ambiguity in films, especially in the endings. For me as a viewer too, it's just there's just something so enjoyable about it because you can continue that story, that journey in your head, with this world and these characters, and especially when something's so it's supposed to be very realistic and set in a certain time and all that. Nothing ends cleanly and nice little bow or anything like that. And it's fun just to be like you said, like a participant in that storytelling. And David Lynch is definitely one of those people that was just like, here's this great canvas, here's some of my strokes on here, now you guys have fun. And you're like, this is too weird. What am I doing? But this is really cool. So
yeah, exactly. And he knew what he was doing. I mean, there are those that say, "Oh, yeah, he was just kind of throwing paint on a canvas," right? But no, he would provide those strokes, but he knew where how they were going to connect. But he didn't want to explicitly tell you because that takes the joy out of the watching, right? Out of the experience. I think, and that's why he was always very careful in interviews. He wouldn't talk about what his work meant at all, because he wanted viewers to do that. But that didn't mean he didn't know what his work meant. He absolutely knew. So, you're in really good hands with a filmmaker like that. The complete opposite is, a filmmaker that is just being weird to be weird, or, throwing stuff out there to elicit an emotion, but for no real point. There's no theme or cohesiveness to it.
And I love it when you go to see a film that you think you might know what it's going to be about or how they're going to handle something, and then just be like totally surprised. Like,
oh yeah,
I recently saw The Testament of Anne Lee, because we have a Shaker museum across the street from that's being built across the street from my antique shop, and they had a special screening before it was out publicly. And somebody said to me, I didn't really know much about it except Anne Lee started the Shakers, whatever. But somebody said it was a musical, and I'm like, oh really? Ugh, I hate musicals. Like, it's like, God damn it. So, but I had to go to this thing. So I'm there, and I never thought I would use this word to describe a movie about the Shakers. It was wild. Wow. And it was so creative. I really encourage people to go watch it, because it's like, like how, Lynch and Twin Peaks was so creative. It was like something we had never seen before, and that just rocked everybody around the water cooler at work. Like, you got to go see that. You got to watch this. Did you watch Twin Peaks last night? You can't wait to watch the next one. And also to love that we had to wait to watch the next one.
Yes. Yes.
But those films that just take you to another place, because you're like, wow, it never even occurred to me to do something like that creatively, that you just look at the director and just in awe. And the acting, oh my gosh. Like, I'm just saying, if you get a chance to see it.
Cool. Awesome. Sounds great.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people might be, Shakers. Trust me on that one. So, like, being a director, like, what are the things that you love about all the different things that you do? So, like, let's start with directing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My favorite part of the process is probably, I think, post-production. I maybe this is where
editing.
Yeah, editing. This is where where the musician part of me sort of comes into play. The scoring and the sound design of a film is so important. I mean, I think Spielberg might have said something to the effect of, like, sound is more than 50% of a film, right? Jaws would not have been Jaws without the score.
Oh, true.
And also, like, a bad soundtrack or bad sound design can absolutely kill a film, no matter how good it is. And there's something about sound, the way those waves of air hit you when you're watching something, that just brings it to another level. So I love that process of just being on a sound stage, doing the sound mix, adding the sound effects, and working with my composers. I just love that process. And like I said before, the editing has it's rhythmic in nature. Of course, I mean, I love being on set, directing the actors. I mean, it's very high pressure, right? Because that's all this time and money and effort. All of that is really being spent in those 3 or 4 weeks, right? So it's a lot on the line. So it can be obviously very fun, but also filled with anxiety and pressure. And I try to be very disciplined and almost kind of militaristic, in my approach on set, and just execute. It's all about executing. So maybe on the next movie, I'll try to have more fun during the production process. But it's like, after it's done, you can't really, I mean, you could do pickup shoots, if you want, but essentially all your material is there and you got to work with it. So there's the pressure's been lifted, and it's kind of like, all right, now we're puzzle solving. Okay, so we have this, can we move this around, do this and do that and experiment? It's much more experimental, and in some ways even a little bit more creative, because you kind of have to really think outside the box. And I've been painted myself into a couple of corners in post-production that I was, through the help of my editors, have been able to get out of, thank goodness. I remember, there's a brief story, but one of the movies I didn't write was a movie I made it was a TV movie for Lifetime Movie Network many years ago. And it was a hired gun gig after I did Detour. Script was already written. I was hired to I did a revision on it, but the story was there. And there was a reveal of the antagonist, the killer in the story. A spoiler alert. Well, not really, but one of the bad guys was played by Roddy Piper. If you know him from They Live, one of my childhood idols, and it was amazing to work with him. And I really wanted this to be a oneer, like very Brian De Palma from the point of view of the person discovering him, and then the person discovering ends up stabbing him, and it was very complex because it had to move through a house, and then the arm had to come out from behind the camera and stab him with a knife, and then there was a special effects blood and everything, and I didn't want to cut, and we did it all in one on a Steadicam, and I convinced myself that I loved it, but it was dragging in parts, but I didn't shoot any extra coverage because I knew I didn't have control of it. I didn't have final cut that the network did, and I was kind of playing a little bit of self-defense. I didn't want to like give them a way to get around that. But what happened was that the network was like, the executives like, yeah, you're going to have to cut this shot. I don't have any other coverage. Okay, well, if you can't get it down to, I forget what the number, down to a minute, maybe it was like a minute 45. If you can't get it down to a minute, we're cutting the scene from the film. And I was like, okay, I don't know what to do here. But what it did was, it was actually a blessing in disguise, because it was an obstacle that led to another idea. So there was this other prop in the film that was a camera. So the killer also had a camera that kind of would, go around and use it. So it's like, why don't we, you know what, that point of view shot, why doesn't the killer also have the camera? And it's coming, maybe it's through the point of view of the lens coming in with the camera, and she's taking pictures of the character Rowdy Piper's playing. And every time she clicks the shutter, we can jump in the edit, right? To condense time. And it worked. Not only did it was able to condense the time, but it added another element to it. It was really cool, like 3D old school 3D camera. We put the lens mat on it, and it actually came out much better than I thought it would. And it added to the movie. So what started as an obstacle, that came up by the studio note, became a blessing.
I think that's what's so great about notes too. Is a lot of times people's first reaction is to get defensive, is to like, oh, it has to be this way, whatever. But when you just digest it and think about it for a little bit, sometimes everything is so much better because of it.
Exactly. 1,000%. 1,000%. I mean, I think every obstacle is an opportunity, right? And a chance for you to really, because you get, I mean, like it forces you to really think creatively. Okay, boy, what do I do now? And ideas will pop up that you would have never thought of before if that didn't happen.
Yeah, especially like in the moment. I'm curious now, now having had that experience, after your first film, like how much prep do you do now? How much storyboarding or shot listing do you do, and conversations are you having with key departments, especially like your DP and production designer, just to make sure you do have that coverage? Or do you kind of just leave it to chance still? Or you're like, you know what, if I did in that pickle again, I'm just gonna figure it out.
Figure it out later. Yeah. I mean, I'm still very like meticulous when it comes to pre-production. I storyboard everything. I have these beat charts that I do. So every scene in a script has an additional, in my binder, has an additional 2 pages of beat charts. So I break the scene down into their sections. I have all the tactics, all the adjustments, subtext, like everything is worked out ahead of time. And then I storyboard them. And when that's done, I take all that material to my DP, and we go through it. And it's all about, okay, well, are we filming the beats properly? Are we not being redundant? But here's the thing. I'm also a firm believer in doing as much work as you possibly can, but also, leaving yourself the opportunity to pivot on set or to try something spontaneous. But I truly don't think you can be spontaneous and improvise like that if you haven't done all that work ahead of time, right? I think for a director to just kind of show up and just, okay, what do we do now, and figure it out then and there, I think is maybe not impossible. I mean, the Spielbergs of the world, the masters, I'm sure can do it, but most people can't. I think that'll lead to something that is more of a mess than it needs to be.
It's showing up to the set unprepared is just kind of, I don't know, just kind of rude to your other crew members, and everyone just, you're not setting up everyone for success. You're just kind of, meandering through the day, and you probably won't get through your day. And
exactly,
it sucks for everyone. Yeah, I don't know. You gotta be prepared with something.
Yeah, and also to that point, right? I think I show up with this gigantic binder, right? And I show, I don't give the my notes or the beat sheets or anything to the actors, but I do show them my process so they see how I work. And I have had some actors on set come up to me who were having difficulty in a scene and say, can I see the beat chart? And it helps them. But another thing it does is I show up with all this work and everybody looks around like, oh shit, he's bringing his game here. We got to bring ours, right? Because the director has to set the tone, to set the standard, right? So if they see the directors really put in the effort, you would think that everybody else will. Okay, well we gotta do some work here. And if someone's not doing that, like you said, meandering around set, that will also have an effect on everybody else.
Are you the same way with your writing? Like, do you outline? Do you do all this big character backstory stuff that maybe never gets on the page? But
I mean, I do. Yeah, I mean, I outline not so much backstory, but certainly like the beats of the story. What's nice about it, kind of liberating about writing a novel, is I have that sort of outline similar to like a 3-act structure, and then once it's all there, I can kind of expand on things. So it's like I need that outline, I need that structure first before I can really get a little looser with it. Because I think it's also I don't know. It's very intimidating for me to even think about, okay, I'm just going to open up a document and start writing and not know where it goes, because I could write forever and I've written nothing. It's just that's my fear, at least.
Do you have a writing routine? Do you write every day, or do you have a routine once you know you have something to write towards?
I probably should create more of a schedule, but it's kind of like any time I have, I do it. It doesn't matter. Like, there's not like a better time of day. I know some people say I write in the morning. I try not to write too late at night, because then it gets my brain going and I can't sleep. So I try. I need to sort of decompress. So maybe like morning into early afternoon. But yeah, I mean, I have all these other things. Like I have these classes that I prepare and I teach, and I have to grade. There's band stuff, right? And yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I think it comes down to more to picking the project. Okay, this is the project I'm focusing on. I'm going to sort of concentrate all my efforts toward that one. I don't like to bounce around too much, because then I feel like it becomes, the multitasking might be detrimental to everything else. I like to just maintain once I'm on something, I just go with it as far as, take it as far as I can.
I also think too, if you take too much of a break between, if you're jumping around to different things, then you have to try to get back into that other project. Like, where did I leave off with this?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you get lost, I think, right? I mean, I've done it before by necessity. I have to get this done, so I'll move over here. But it's not. I much rather stick to one thing.
To kind of wrap all this craziness up, if you had to go back in time, and you get to kind of do this because you get to talk to your students, but if you had to go back in time and give yourself maybe that 11-year-old who was watching David Lynch and craving a piece of cherry pie, if you had to go back and talk to that kid, what advice would you give him?
Wow. That's so hard.
Put cream in your coffee?
Yeah. Well, in my older years, I've become lactose intolerant, so I cannot handle cream. Of course. So it has to be black or with almond milk. Probably it would have to do with, if you have an idea and you have faith in the idea, see it through and try to make it the way you want to make it. Because I feel like my experience with Detour, while it was a great learning experience to sort of follow these paths of, Hollywood funding, and, it was enticing. There was also the part of me like, this is probably not going to happen. So I think my advice would be learn to recognize, to trust your gut on some things as far as what the outside is telling you and what your inside is telling you. Because, the amount of time and effort it takes to write a script alone, not only to make the movie, take it into post-production, take production and post-production, it's your life. You're dealing with that your entire life. I mean, even the movies I've made, I'm still, they're still a part of my life, and I'm dealing with them out in the world. So it's a major emotional and personal commitment. So don't do something that you think is going to satisfy a certain trend or a company or something just to get a credit. I mean, I think like there are cases where you can make that argument, but not something that is like coming from your brain that's very personal, that you've spent so much time and effort on. I think like, trust yourself that even if it doesn't get made now, keep working on it, put your effort in, and it will get made the way you want it eventually.
I love that advice. Yeah,
I know.
That's great. And just to put a button on that, I think everyone should go pick up your new book, The Tao of Twin Peaks. Those who are either fans of Lynch or have no clue who he is or curious, because it is such a great read. And I think you do such a great job of that balancing act of giving your readers some insight, but also as kind of figuring out the in-between with your in-between. of who Lynch is and what we're doing from the show. It's just, I've been singing its praises to a lot of friends. Like, you got to pick up this book. It is so good.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We will put a link to it in the show notes, and you're required to eat pie while you read it.
Yeah, 100%. You can't not eat pie when you're reading this book.
Reckless Creatives is a Pipeline Artist original podcast. Like, subscribe, and follow us on social media at Pipeline Artists. And find more info at pipelineartists.com/listen. Until next time, stay reckless.